So between April 1st and June 30th, I spent 282 hours and 30 minutes going after my 2026 goals, which, if you are new to the channel, are writing, reading, studying Korean, and content creation. And for those of you who are new to the channel, welcome. My name is LaShawn Daly. I am a children's literature professor, and this YouTube channel is called Dr. Daly Knows Kid Lit. And each quarter, I recap my goals, which I have been tracking since 2024, which are the 4 goals that I previously specified. And these 4 goals are a part of a 5-year plan that I had started in 2024. And so now I am in year 3 of tracking these 4 goals. So if you are interested in my previous recap videos, I will go ahead and leave the playlist in the description box below. So since this video is on Q2 of 2026, I'm going to go ahead and break down these 4 goals and what my 8 daily tasks are and how many hours I spent completing those tasks. So for novel writing, I spent 131 and a half hours revising my novel. I spent 49 and a half hours writing and revising my research papers. I spent 17 hours and 45 minutes reading novels. I spent 2.5 hours reading academic text. I spent 4 hours and 15 minutes scripting content for social media. I spent 46 hours and 15 minutes editing content for social media. I also spent 30 hours and 45 minutes studying Korean, and I posted 18 times on Instagram, and I uploaded 4 YouTube videos. And so when I collapse all of these hours back into my 4 main goals, I have spent 185 hours and 15 minutes writing. I've spent 46 hours and 15 minutes editing content for social media. I've spent 30 hours and 45 minutes studying Korean. And I have spent 20 hours and 15 minutes reading. My most productive week of Q2 was June 1st through the 5th, where I spent 35 hours and 45 minutes going after my goals. And then my least productive week was the week of June 28th with 10 hours, but that is because the first week of July began on that Wednesday, so it wasn't a full week. So when I look at a full week and see what my least productive week was, it was actually April 20th through the 26th, and that's mostly because I had a ton of work meetings and I had to be on campus more often than I normally am. And so that week I spent 13 hours going after my goals, which isn't bad. Now let's talk about the specific outcomes for each of these goals. So during that 131 and a half hours of revising, I have officially started draft 8 of my contemporary YA novel, which I have been referring to as Project Seoul because it takes place in Seoul, South Korea. I started working on this novel in November of 2023. I finished the first draft in November of 2024. And now that we are in July of 2026, I am in the midst of completing the final draft before I start querying next month. So please stay tuned for my Q3 video where I will be giving you some querying updates. And so as the end of June 30th, which ended the second quarter, I ended up revising the first 23 chapters of the manuscript and had deleted 1,618 words, which is a huge success. As of June 30th, my word count was 98,670 words, which means I met my word count because I was trying to get this draft from over 100,000 to 98,000, and I finally have met that goal. Now, as for the 49 and a half hours I put towards my academic writing, I had submitted my article to the Children's Literature Journal, and unfortunately, it had been rejected. But that ended up working out because it was then accepted into the Girlhood Studies Journal, which is a journal I've always wanted to be published in. And that article should be coming out in their December issue. There was a different article that I was going to submit to the Girlhood Studies Journal. At least that's what I was talking about in my Q1 video. But I have decided to try to place that journal in the Lion and the Unicorn, which is the top children's literature journal in the field. And I've always wanted to try to place something there, but I didn't necessarily have anything. So now that I didn't get into the children's literature journal, I have rotated that article towards Girlhood Studies. And then the article that I was going to send to Girlhood Studies, I am now prepping to send to the Lion and the Unicorn. So the lesson is, do not get hung up on rejections. Your articles will eventually be able to find the journal that they're supposed to be published in. At least that's what I like to tell myself. The other big news that I have regarding my academic writing is that I have a book deal with Bloomsbury Publishing, specifically their academic imprint. So the book proposal that I was talking about in Q1 was accepted. That book proposal is about Addie Walker, American Girl's First Black Doll, and I am the editor and one of the writers of this anthology. And so this anthology will be coming out in November 2028. I am so excited for this anthology, and I will definitely be doing a separate video telling you more about the book proposal process as well as about the anthology in general. But for now, I wanted to give you an update that that book proposal was accepted and that the book was sold on proposal, which means that the book hasn't actually been written yet. It was sold as a result of the book proposal that I had submitted. So please stay tuned to this anthology, and I will definitely give you more updates as I am writing it and editing it over the next year. Okay, so the 17 hours and 45 minutes of novel reading, I only got to read 2 novels. I read One Big Open Sky by Lisa Klein Ransom, which honestly had me in tears. It is a middle grade novel in verse, and it is about a Black family during the first Great Migration in the 1870s. It was beautifully written and absolutely heartbreaking, but I recommend that if you love historical fiction, that you should definitely give One Big Open Sky a chance. And the second book that I finished was a young adult romance called The Free Verse Society by Delali Adjua. If you had watched any of my previous vlogs, you will have seen that I was reading that book during that time. And this book is about Jay and Derek. It is a dual POV. And you are watching them learn to love themselves while falling in love with each other. So if you love YA romance, I also recommend The Free Verse Society. My goal this year was to read a book a month, but because I am doing so much writing, I just had to pare down my reading. So hopefully in the second half of the year, I will be able to retain that goal and go back to reading a book a month, but I won't know until Q3, so I will keep you updated then. Okay, so for my 2.5 hours of academic reading, I had continued reading chapters from Song of the Land, which is an anthology about the work of Mildred D. Taylor, and I was also reading chapters from that anthology in Q1. And again, I have not done much academic reading because I have been doing so much writing, but my hope is to also progress in some of the academic texts that have been on my TBR for some time, and I will again let you know if I was able to meet that goal or any of these goals in Q3, but keeping my fingers crossed, I will be able to. Now, when it comes to content creation, I spent 50.5 hours scripting and editing content for social media. I posted 18 times on Instagram and released 4 YouTube videos, which is great because I've been trying to average a video a month and I was able to accomplish that. And it seems I am averaging 6 Instagram posts a month as well. And the truth is I haven't really been scrolling a lot on Instagram, so I'm not posting a lot on Instagram. I take that as a win, but I do want to be just a little bit more intentional about posting more regularly on Instagram during the second half of this year. In Q2, I gained 14 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. I also received 1.4K views and 68.4 watch hours. Now, as for Instagram, I gained 1 follower. Shout out to that 1 follower. And so now I am at 371 followers on Instagram. When it comes to my Korean language hours, 30 hours and 45 minutes, that is me self-studying. At the beginning of the year, I was hoping to take a class. However, that has not yet happened, but who knows, that could happen in the second half of the year, but we'll see. I am going to do a separate video about how I go about doing my self-studying journey and the materials that I use. But for now, I have been able to honestly see my skills continue to grow and grow. So I am excited about continuing my self-study path until I can figure out a class that will work with my work schedule and my goals schedule. Since starting my official Korean language journey in 2024, I have logged 335 hours, which means I am 1,465 hours away from developing a working proficiency in the language. So I think I'm at about 5.5 more years of studying Korean at this rate, and then I will have a working proficiency level of the language. So those are my stats for Q2. I love seeing all of what I have accomplished. So since we are at the mid-year, I'm going to go ahead and just give you a quick snapshot of my Q1 and my Q2 totals. So my mid-year totals are, I have spent 165.5 hours revising my novel, 124.5 hours writing and revising my research papers. I spent 41.5 hours reading novels. I spent 12.5 hours reading academic text. I spent 19 hours and 30 minutes scripting content for social media. I spent 96 hours and 45 minutes editing content for social media. I spent 57 hours and 15 minutes studying Korean for a total of 517 hours and 15 minutes of going after my 2026 goals. I have also posted 40 times on Instagram this year, and I have uploaded 7 YouTube videos. So that is my recap. Please stay tuned to Q3 when I give you some more updates about my querying journey, as well as about the anthology. And please look out for my Korean language video where I am going to give you a little bit more of a comprehensive view of how I go about my self-study in Korean. So as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.